Hello and welcome to another action-packed, exciting hour of the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Re-Watch-Along Project. This is podcasting the way it used to be and the way you like it. This show is a production of the Something Else Podcasting Network, and it is episode number 084 of Smoky Mountain Wrestling from September 4th, 1993, taped August 16th, 1993, at the Clintonwood Elementary School in Clintonwood, Virginia. My name is Arya, and joining me, as always, is the smoking, sparking power strip to my big foot. It's Trae. Trae, how the fuck are you tonight?
Not too bad. Kind of tired, but cool. I got paid $20 a day or $20 an hour for like 8.5 hours a day, and it was like
Nice.
2.5 hours of driving, and the rest of the time I was sitting in the car watching wrestling on my iPad. So if I could just figure out how to do that like 5 days a week, I'd be fucking set.
When you said you were going to be $20 a day, at first I'm like, man, that sounds like a shitty gig. But $20 an hour to sit around and watch wrestling on your iPad, that sounds pretty goddamn good if you ask me.
Yeah,
Ah,
good work if you can get it.
yes. So if it's not one fucking thing, it's another. Um, so as you can hear, I got my voice back. The progression as it's gone this week is just tremendous. Because in reality, in real time, it's been about, I don't know, 96 to 120 hours since we recorded the Tuesday show. And then Cindy and I recorded the TNA show yet on the next day, and now it's Tuesday, and my voice has incrementally gotten better throughout the week. So hooray for that. But then my I nearly got had an electrical fire tonight. So I'm fucking sitting here. I I saw this fucking ad for the fucking Alpha Academy. They have a website and a phone number that you can call. And I was trying to figure out a way to, plug it in so I could play it here and trying to see if anybody uploaded the audio of the phone call onto YouTube. But there's only one douchebag with to talk all over it. So I'll see what I can do about that later. But anyway, as this is happening, I can smell smoke. And I'm like, where the fuck is that smoke coming from? Because I mean, I ate dinner a couple hours ago. It's not like, and I turned the stoves off, you know, did all that shit. So that's not a thing. And then I look down and I see the power strip that my laptop and my space heater are plugged into. As I'm looking at it, it sparks and a tiny flame comes out. And I began freaking the fuck out because I'm like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I kick at it for a second, which ultimately was a really stupid idea for a number of reasons. But I unplugged it and then I began stomping on it because it was um the switch part at the end that it was smoking and sparking from. So I stomp on it. I unplugged my laptop, the charger from the laptop itself, and then I like managed to kind of like wiggle out the space heater plug. And so I gave it a few seconds just to see what the hell would happen. And of course, it was done by this point because there's no more power going to it. So I was able to get my laptop plug out as well. So that's all set. But then I didn't know what the fuck to do with it because it was obviously still hot because it was just fucking threatening flames, and I'm like I can't leave it like on my carpeted floor because like heaven forbid if it keeps going and I happen to somehow not see it or smell it, it could catch my carpet on fire. And so
Mhm.
then I remembered when I was a kid. And I looked online. Apparently, this is a thing. This wasn't just some weird ass thing my family did. When I was a kid on New Year's Eve, we used to put a lit mulberry candle in the bathtub on New Year's Eve. And if it burned all the way down during the night, that meant you'd have good luck for the next year. And
Hmm.
I remember being told that the reason you put it in the bathtub, as long as it's away from the curtain and it's not near the curtain, if it tips over, it won't, you can't light the bathtub on fire. Like, I don't know
Sure.
how true that is or not, but that's what I was told as a child. And so I went and I put it in my dry bathtub. The shower curtain is far away from it. It's on the other side of where the shower curtain is. And so tap on wood. Hopefully that's it. This isn't the last show you ever hear.
Hopefully.
Yes.
I'll just start doing
Ah,
Smoky Mountain reviews over on the Oh My God cast. Carry the flag
in honor of me.
in honor of you.
See, that's what was freaking me the fuck out too. If I wasn't home, it would have set an electrical fire and the whole house would have burned down.
Uh, yeah, that's pretty fucking gnarly.
Yeah.
I'm
And
glad that
so
I'm glad that your abode was not burned down.
that's fine. And by the way, this wasn't like, yesterday or, early this afternoon. It was like 20 fucking minutes ago.
Yeah,
Hmm. But we have a
we were just
schedule
having
to
a
keep.
we do. The show must go on.
For the record, if we ever come up with an idea for a stunt where I'm being dropped from the ceiling of an arena and I fall and die, it's okay if you don't continue the show.
I probably wouldn't continue that particular show.
What if you're afraid that there's a riot from our listener? Is
Uh,
that's what literally did you know that's what Vince's excuse was? That he was worried that if they canceled the show, there would be a riot.
just so full of shit.
Yeah. I know. If he canceled the show, he was gonna have to refund a lot of money. And you don't have to fucking do that.
Uh, well, maybe don't do any stunts about coming off of high places. I don't know. I'm scared of heights, so I'm not doing the
Oh,
fucking stunt.
oh, so am I. But I have learned my fear isn't so much going up to the high place. It's once I'm already up there and having to go down.
It's when I get up high and I realize how far up
Hmm.
I am, that freaks me out.
Yeah. Like I remember like even as a kid, um, we had bunk beds and my brother had to be on the top bunk because the first day we had them, I climbed up and couldn't get down.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's terrible. I don't
Oh
have
yeah.
it that bad.
I mean I can get yeah, I was like 6 or 7 at the time. I'm 40. I'm pretty sure I can get down from a bunk bed at this point. But yeah. Uh,
Here's the thing.
uh,
I was like I was like in my early 20s when I realized I was scared of heights. I guess I just didn't do I don't know. I was never a kid that did like climbed up shit and stuff. So I
mhm.
didn't really funnily enough, it was the first time that I ever went out with my wife because we went it's in this national park. It's a very like it's just a very tall thing and you go up to the top and you can look around at the park and the view. And I got up there and that was when I realized, "Oh, I'm scared of heights. I don't like this."
That and I used to have a real bad scare or fear of public, I don't even say public speaking, public performing when I wasn't in a very large group. Like I remember we had some performance in third or fourth grade, and like before when we'd have like a Christmas pageant and like the entire class was singing, I was fine. I would sing as loud as anybody else. But there was one performance, it was just going to be four of us. And I remember I was the only person that really knew the words to the song. Like the other three weren't really practicing at all. And so we
Yeah.
get to the performance, and I froze like a deer in the headlights. And
Yeah,
uh,
I never did like performances or anything, but I was briefly a teacher and did like lectures and stuff, some other things. And I
mhm,
learned like I have to really thoroughly be prepared because if I don't have like very detailed everything I'm going to say, I will panic and lock up.
yeah, I actually got over it in college. I had to take a public speaking class. And so we'd have to give speeches to the class like once every couple weeks. And
Yeah.
I learned to stare over the top of everybody's head to the wall behind them and move my head back and forth while reading a memorized speech. And I get all this feedback talking about what great eye contact I had, how, I never looked at my pages. I'd always be looking right at everybody. And I always thought to myself, I was not looking at any single one of you. I was looking at the wall behind your heads. But oh well. But yeah, since then it's like nowadays it's like I don't give a shit. Like, I'll happily go and do wacky shit. Like put me at karaoke. I love karaoke. I'll sing by myself in front of a bunch of idiots. And you know, it,
Yeah.
it, it comes with that weird level of confidence that I have. Whether or not I should be this confident, I am. So I find it pretty easy.
I used to there was a time in my life that I had certain abilities that I felt confident in, and now I'm confident in my ability to just bullshit about wrestling for an hour or two, but that's about it.
Hey, you're pretty fucking good at that.
Appreciate
So
it.
this is a 51-minute show, 50 minutes and 56 seconds exactly. And of the first 37 minutes and 7 seconds of this show, we're going to have about 22 minutes of audio to play.
It's
Yeah,
fantastic. Fantastic audio.
there is, and it's like, I would like to sit here and be like, okay, there's a Tim Horner promo. We can skip that. There's not a Tim Horner promo. We do have a pretty weirdly bad promo that I could skip, but I think it's so weirdly bad that we have to play it.
We
Um,
almost we almost had our quarterly 3-star match. I think they just didn't quite have enough time to get there.
I said 3 stars,
I was at
but
2 3/4. I would have liked
well,
more of it. Was my only complaint.
this is why we have to argue over a quarter star.
It doesn't matter.
The,
It really does. We're
the,
not arguing. We're just like
next you're gonna
I'm never gonna argue a star rating with anybody. I might go, huh, that's interesting, and think about it. Here's the thing.
ne-
Here's the thing about
mhm.
star ratings. They don't fucking matter, and we're stupid for talking about them.
They're subjective. It's
They
like,
are.
who cares if I like a match slightly more than you do, or vice versa? Like, hey,
Seriously.
you know something? Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 21. Dave gave 4 3/4 stars. Everyone bitches about that Shawn Undertaker match not getting 5 stars. That's the one that I would bitch about, the Shawn Kurt Angle match. But I'm not going to waste my fucking time tweeting at Dave going, why did this match get 5 stars? This didn't have, Sim Snuka dropping Undertaker on his head. This was a perfect match. But I don't do that because that would be really fucking stupid.
People have pointed out the one flaw with the Sean Kurt match, and I get it, is that like the ankle lock lasts a really long time. But I think that match is fucking phenomenal.
It's WrestleMania, like,
Mhm.
and Shawn Michaels is not the TV jobber of the week. It's like,
Look,
I,
what it comes down to is if you're telling me that my star rating is wrong, you're saying that I enjoyed a piece of art the wrong amount, and that is fucking stupid.
oh, actually, I do remember the other one I would argue with Dave about if I had enough care to argue about this. Do you remember King of the Ring 98? They did a tag team match with Al Snow and Head versus Too Much.
Yes.
As a kid and even as an adult, I thought that was the funniest fucking thing in the world, made better by Jim Ross's commentary through the whole thing. And to me, that was like quality entertainment. It was like 6 minutes of just stupid bullshit, but it was fun, stupid bullshit.
Okay,
And
I'm
Dave
sorry.
eviscerated it in The Observer. And I'm like, I disagree with this, but what the hell's the
Sorry.
point of fighting Dave about a match from 26 years ago?
That might be the most brilliant fucking finish I've ever seen.
Yes. For
Oh
for
my
those who
God.
somehow don't know, Al Snow had a mannequin head called Head, and he was wrestling Too Much, who would go on to become Too Cool, Brian Christopher and Scott Taylor. And Head was his tag team partner, and it was a legitimate mannequin head. And the finish of the match, Brian Christopher got a bottle of Head and Shoulders shampoo. I don't even know if they still have Head and Shoulders shampoo, but he took it
Yeah.
and screwed it onto the bottom of the head and pinned it because now the head had shoulders. And I'm sorry, I know it was stupid. I know, like, I'm a 40-year-old adult. I should not still be laughing at the thought of this, but it was fucking funny.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
And like I said, this was like the peak of Jim Ross commentary because when like Jim Ross, like when something was stupid, he would not play it serious. And this is one of those fucking times where it's like the most tongue-in-cheek commentary because Lawler was the referee because he was still sort of a heel. So Lawler was the referee, so it was JR by himself. And like if you could have a five-star comedy match, if such a thing existed, this would be a five-star comedy match.
Yes.
It's,
And by the way, so I have like very outspokenly, I hate shit like in DDT when they wrestle the fucking blow up doll and shit. This is not that. This is like they're not acting like the head is a person. Like Al Snow will like quote unquote tag the head in and then he's using the head to hit the guys. It's not like Brian Christopher and Scott Taylor fucking doing running high spots with the fucking head. This is just a brilliant like all-time comedy match.
so there was a period of time, maybe because I've never been able to find any proof of this. But when I was a kid, I was 14, 15 years old at this time, I could swear they were doing an angle that seemed like it was being built up to a spot where the head would quote unquote come alive, quote unquote. But it was like that somehow there would be like robotics involved or like something where like somehow like the head, I don't know how this would even have been possible, especially in 1998, 1999, but like the head would like almost like spring up like it was a pogo stick and hit somebody. Like they were building up to that. And I cannot find any proof of this, which may make me think it was some weird ass dream I was having. But I just remember thinking that as a kid that, oh my God, they're going to build to this great spot with the head. And now I look
Now,
back, I'm like, how would that even have been possible?
now you know if the Al Snow and head thing had happened in WCW, they would have shown the head talking to Al Snow, and like we would have
Hmm?
seen the head talking, but then the announcers would have been acting like, well, what is he doing? He thinks the head is talking to him, even though we all heard it.
Yes. So now, thank you to Aria for that tangent. Now that we're almost 20 minutes into the show, um, let's go to the intro of this week's show, Bob Caudle and Dutch Mantel.
Welcome to another action-packed, exciting hour of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Professional wrestling the way it used to be and the way you like it. Hi, fans. I'm Bob Caudle along with Dr. Dirty Dutch Mantel. And as we said, it's time again for a lot of action and excitement right here on Smoky Mountain Wrestling. This week's card is another tremendous this outstanding card, you're going to see the Bruise Brothers, the big ones, in action right here. Bobby Blaze will take on Primetime Brian Lee for the title. We got a surprise for the Dirty White Boy and Mr. Ron Wright. And what have you got on Down and Dirty, Dutch?
On Down and Dirty today, we're going to get the comments from the most hunted man in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Bullet Bob Armstrong is going to be my special guest today.
All right, and fans, the Dirty White Boy retired undefeated. We got to draw two names for a Beat the Champ match, right?
Absolutely. We're going to draw two names. Brand new Beat the Champ contest. Starting today, the first name I draw right here, that name, Ricky Morton, will be in the Beat the Champ contest against, hang on, I'm not done, a new name right here, Jimmy Del Rey. Starting today, Beat the Champ, brand new contest.
Oh, man, that's going to be a great one, fans. We're about ready right now. Let's go to the ring.
All right. So there's nothing wrong with the lineup for this week's show. At least we're going to have actually two main events, two with an asterisk. But my issue, and this obviously I can't blame Coddle for the pacing of the rest of the show, but this is another one of those shows where they have too fucking much in 1 hour, and they're
Yes.
having to edit out entrances. Like almost nobody got an entrance on this show. And we'll get to one point later on, especially when it is especially stupid. And we have to thank our WWA World Heavyweight Champion for making a save for that one. But Caudle at the beginning, I don't say he's stumbling over his words because he's not, but he's saying a lot of nothing. He's like, oh, this is, like I said, this is wrestling the way it used to be, the way I like it. Oh, we have a great show today, don't we? And like, okay, that was 10 seconds that we could have wedged in somewhere else. But the key is today we're going to have a surprise for the Dirty White Boy and Mr. Ron Wright. Bullet Bob is on Down and Dirty, and Ricky Morton versus Jimmy Del Rey is your Beat the Champ TV title match. And okay, I'll say that that match is going to be really good. That's the match we're going to be talking about later. That's, between 2 and 3/4 stars and 3 stars, depending who you ask. But like this Beat the Champ TV title, it's been going on for about 8 months or so. And I don't want to say it's jumped the shark because we've talked about, but we talked about it last week where White Boy's 5th match was against an enhancement talent. And most of his TV title matches were against enhancement talents. But it's like, okay, I want to see random ass matches. And it's like the only random ass matches you're really getting is when they do Dirty White Boy versus Mike Jackson or whoever the hell he was wrestling. It's like, I want to see like Ricky Morton got chosen for Beat the Champ. Okay. Tim Horner. Like, okay, Horner's not the greatest person in the world, but hey, Tim Horner versus Ricky Morton, A, would have been a good match too. And B, it's really fucking random. It gets over the idea of it being completely random. Like this is like, okay, it's Ricky Morton. Who is Ricky Morton feuding with? Well, all of Jim Cornette's people. Who's one of Jim Cornette's people? Jimmy Del Rey. Let's go for it. So
what if they did
I
like fucking Ricky versus Robert or Jimmy versus Tom or a Heavy D against Big Ron?
Yeah.
Like you can't do all of those close together, but you could do one of them.
Exactly. And I mean, I guess we'll see because this thing's going to go on. It does end around May in 95, April or May in 95. Like it just ends without any discussion. So we'll see how creative they get with some of this. But yeah, so far it's basically just, yeah, the person we're feuding with. That's who we're going to be wrestling and Beat the Champ. But
And
anyway, we go to our. Mhm.
I do have a problem with the lineup, but I'll bring that up when we get to it.
All right, so we have tag team champions, the Bruise Brothers versus Jason West and Robbie Eagle. Ever notice the Harris's don't give a fuck that their manager is laid up at home?
Why
Anyway,
would they?
Kevin Sullivan was on commentary and mostly spoke gibberish. And before the match really got going, I wrote that the Harris's were disqualified for kicking too much ass. And that's exactly what happened. And before I rant and rave, because like at this point I've done this rant and rave a lot, but let's go to a Kevin Sullivan promo and then I'll rant and rave about what I'm going to rant and rave about.
About the Bruise Brothers, they're good men. They're nice men. And let me tell you, Jimmy Cornette, I'm sorry. I don't like to ease into anything because of a friend's hardship. But if they need guidance, and all these guys do need is guidance, they're untamed animals. They're untapped. And besides that, they have never got a fair shake in the justice system. First, you have to have a body to be convicted. That was all circumstantial evidence. But Morristown, September 11th, when they shaved the head of the Rock and Roll Express with a straight razor, they slipped and shaved real close. Oh, yeah, and Armstrong, let me tell you something. You got the money to take care of you. You got your daddy to lead you around and make sure everything's okay. Now we got somebody. We got somebody right here that's gonna make sure we go where we need to go. When we do the things we need to do and take care of everything we need to take care of. Yeah. All you three guys need is guidance.
Not from some.
All right. So, first of all, whatever the fuck they were saying there, but to sum it up, Kevin Sullivan is going to be their manager now instead of Jimmy Cornette. And here's the fucking thing. And I've mentioned this before. I've complained about this before. I'm going to complain about it until Kevin Sullivan and the Bruise Brothers are off my TV forever. This has been going on for almost a fucking year at this point. Kevin Sullivan came into the territory in November of last year. It is now September of 93. Every fucking match on TV, if with Kevin Sullivan or the Bruise Brothers now, they have been disqualified for kicking too much ass. Except in both cases, they both got one win. The Bruise Brothers beat the Rock and Roll Express for the tag titles about a month ago, and Kevin Sullivan beat a jobber a few weeks ago. That was the first and only time that either man got it, that either group or either entity got a win on TV. Every other fucking time either of these two were on the screen, they would have a job match where they got disqualified for kicking too much ass. And the fact is, it wouldn't even be that big of a deal, like if a lot of time had passed between the two, but it didn't. Sullivan, I mean, I don't want to say he ended because he's obviously here now, but Sullivan stopped being a regular feature around May, and the Harrises came in pretty much right away because the Harrises were there right after Stan Lane left.
Yeah. So
I'm just so fucking sick of this. It's the same goddamn thing.
they have lost 3 times on TV since winning the tag team titles, and none of those teams have gotten a title shot. Look, Mike Sampson and Robbie Eagle beat the champions. Larry Santo and Chris Comet beat the champions. Now Robbie Eagle and Jason West beating the champions. And look, and you know what? It would almost be better if they were getting disqualified for kicking too much ass. It's worse than that. They get disqualified for throwing the guy over the fucking top rope.
Which, to make it even worse, like they were hitting them with chairs earlier in the match. When I wasn't not paying attention, I noticed they had chairs in their hand and hitting their opponents. That is a disqualification. This,
You would think.
like, I'm sorry, I get this is a different time frame, and 1993, this is probably at least a little different, but come on. Nobody, like, I can't imagine anybody being a regular viewer of this show and not picking up on this annoying ass pattern. So now the three of them are going to be a group. I don't know for how
I
long,
mean,
but Sullivan's in WCW as a tag team champion in like 6 months.
uh, I don't think the Harrises are still going to be here in 6 months. They're in ECW early next year, I think.
Yeah. Because I know in 6 months the Thrill Seekers are here, and I think Well Done is here, in 6 months.
Yeah.
And we only ever have two face teams and two heel teams getting pushed anyway. So, I mean, Thankfully, this group is not going to last long. Although who knows? Maybe they'll be the greatest thing ever, and I'll be begging for them to stick around by the time they leave.
And
But honestly, I am just tired of Kevin Sullivan and Smoky Mountain at this point.
here's the thing. I know that the Harrises aren't like the best promos, but is Kevin Sullivan doing promos for them adding anything?
In theory, but it's not.
I mean, Cornette doing promos for them, that does like enhance them. It
Yeah.
I don't know. I, Sullivan doing his weird promos for them, like I don't see where that's any better than just letting them yell on their own behalf.
Yeah, I'll be honest, like, it it would be different, I guess you want to say, if the Bruise Brothers were cutting their own promos. And who knows, maybe it'd be different in a good way. I mean, it really can't get a whole lot worse at this point because I mean, it really doesn't work when you have people who can cut great promos like Cornette or even like Sullivan when he's got some good material, and then like Ron or Don are cutting in for a few words. It just doesn't work because, like, okay, you're taking a big drop from a 10 on the promo scale to a 2. But
I have a
if you just take,
question.
I hope I have an answer.
Now that Bob Armstrong isn't the commissioner anymore, what is the status of Kevin Sullivan's therapy bills? Are they being paid?
I
Is
believe
Pam
they
sending
stopped
the
being,
check?
I believe they stopped being paid a while ago. You know, it's all Pam's fault. Bob was
Fucking
in
Pam.
Japan and the bills went across the Smoky Mountain desk. And, the Smoky Mountain front office, there wasn't a whole lot of people there. So it was probably, Pam probably didn't even read them. She was busy fucking Horner, but just had a stack of things she had to sign and authorize. So, you know,
You think they got the bills from Horner's fax machine?
it's been a while since we brought up Pam Lawson.
I know. It's been like a fucking month or two, it feels like. We also haven't brought up the fax machine in a while.
No, no, no. By the way, they're both gone in less than a year.
Horner and Pam?
Yeah, because like, oh my God, the fucking mummy's on his way in. I just realized like how
Oh God.
I,
Prince
I just realized,
Karras.
yeah, where we are in the Smoky Mountain era. We're gonna have a fucking mummy soon. Horner is gonna be a samurai. Um, this is gonna be just a tremendous, tremendous next year. And then like Horner leaves around the time New Jack comes in. So
Oh, what a shame.
imagine Horner trying to cut a promo on New Jack.
Imagine imagine New Jack mass transiting Horner.
Oh Lord, thankfully New Jack is not alive. Did I ever tell you about the time my brother and I met New Jack?
No.
So it was at WrestleCon Atlanta WrestleMania weekend, and we met New Jack, and like he was not up for meeting two lily white Northerners. Let's just say that. And you can look on the picture that we took. Just the look on his face was like he wants to fucking mass transit us so badly.
New Jack.
God,
God rest him.
God rest his soul. So now that we've talked about everything other than what's coming up, let's go to a fun little Dirty White Boy and Mr. Ron Wright promo. Now you might recall uh this storyline's been going on for a few months. Ron Wright took out a $20,000 insurance policy to put a bounty on Tracy Smothers' head. Primetime Brian Lee and Dirty White Boy teamed up to basically take out Tracy. And thanks to Tammy, putting her womanly wiles on to Mr. Ron Wright. Mr. Ron Wright gave them the $20,000 last week, and Dirty White Boy is quite upset by this, and he's about to get quite more upset. Let's go to Mr. Ron Wright and Dirty White Boy.
All right, fans, we'll be at ringside right now. The Dirty White Boy and the legendary Mr. Ron Wright. And I've never seen such wide smiles and grins on your face as I have in recent days.
Let me tell you, I'm about a cured man now after getting that Tracy Smothers out of the picture. He's out of action. We got rid of him forever. I'm just happy I'm...
Well, wait a minute. I want to read you. I got a note right here from the doctor of Tracy Smothers. It says that Tracy Smothers' knee ligament is not completely torn, as first thought, only a partial tear. We recommend that Tracy stay out of action for 6 weeks, and then he may return. Now, I tell you, wait a minute. We got a taped interview with Tracy. Watch it right here.
You know, you've all seen the tape now, and you all know what happened on Fire on the Mountain, Rage in the Cage, August 14th. Everybody knows that the Dirty White Boy and Brian Lee, they hurt my knee, and they thought they collected the bounty. They thought they got the job done, but they didn't. Because you know why? I'm coming back. Yeah, it's just a partial tear, guys. Doctor told me I'd be out 6 weeks. I'll be out 3. September 12th, Knoxville, Tennessee. A September to remember. I'm coming back. Dirty White Boy, the man that burnt the rebel flag, and prima donna primetime Brian Lee with Tammy Fytch with a capital B. Title match. Yeah. I've asked the commission, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, to make sure that Dirty White Boy does not interfere. He's going to be in a cage at ringside. And let me tell you why I can come back in 3 weeks instead of 6, guys. Right here. My old knee brace. I hurt my knee, tore my knee up in high school playing football, and throughout my athletic career, I've had a bad wheel. Well, White Boy, prime time, you did your homework. Tammy Fytch, you did your homework. I'll give you credit. You did everything in the world to collect that bounty, but you couldn't get the job done. So you went back and see where the weakness was. You found bad wheel. Let me tell you something. I got a heart as big as the God Almighty, and it'll be a cold day in July before some nothing happening dirty white trash and some no good backstabbing prima donna prime time and a little tin Lizzie Huzzy tramp put this old country boy down. It's gonna be a September to remember. September 12th. Oh, it'll be a rage, all right. Yeah. I'm naming my own rage because, White Boy, you're going to be in the cage. I can spit on you. I can kick at you. I can do whatever I want to when I'm beating Brian Lee's brains out because, by gosh, that's what I'm going to do. September 12th. Brian, you say you're 6'8", 300 pounds, 6'8". Don't be late. I'll be waiting on you. September 12th at the Knoxville Coliseum. Be there.
Well, and Tracy says that he can beat 6 weeks, that he can do it in 3 weeks.
Okay, I ain't believing this. That prime time was supposed to put that man out of commission. I demand they come out here and give me my money back.
I told you not to give that little tramp one thin down. I told you to give it to me. You wouldn't listen to me. No, you wouldn't listen to me. Now we're out 20 grand.
I can't believe
I
it.
can't believe it.
I want my money back. You tell them I want my money.
Listen to me from now on. I told you. Time and time again.
Oh, they're hot fans, and I think they got a right to be. They're out $28,000, and Tracy Smothers says 3 weeks, and he can make it back. Don't you go away. We'll be right back.
Okay, so I would go ahead and call that, a pretty goddamn great promo by everybody involved. White Boy was good here. Mr. On Wright was good here. Tracy, it was kind of weird, Tracy's promo, because it was like, it was kind of your usual weird Tracy Smothers promo where he gets in the best of lines about Tammy Fytch with a capital B and prima donna Brian Lee, but
Confederate flag.
It wasn't the normal Brian Lee, or it wasn't the normal Tracy Smothers. He was like he was more serious than he's ever been before now. And it just worked because, like, hey, these guys gave him a career-ending knee injury that he's going to pull a John Cena and come back in 3 weeks from. But, and then White Boy freaks out, Mr. Ron Wright freaks out, and this was just great. And another reason to go take your time machine back to September 93 and spend a month in the Smoky Mountains coming up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, they're
Yeah.
gonna have that match coming up here. It's gonna be Tracy versus Primetime Brian Lee, with with White Boy in a cage at ringside, so he can't interfere. But yeah, it's all great here, and Mr. Wright
Yeah.
wants his money back.
Yeah. My only note was that this pretty much was a best of Tracy Smothers promo because he got all his lines in.
I think it helped that he was so the gravitas was there. Like he was quietly angry and doing all of the best of Tracy Smothers lines. You know, it wasn't
Yeah.
the down home, aw shucks, Tracy Smothers. It wasn't the golly gee, Mr. Caudle, I'm just happy to be here, Tracy Smothers. And it wasn't even the hey, I got screwed out of the title, Tracy Smothers. This was the you motherfuckers tried to injure me permanently, Tracy Smothers. And that was a great Tracy Smothers, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. Let's take a look here. Yeah, Tracy is in Japan. The tour started August 20th. Let's see, what date did the show air? It's September 4th. Okay, he's in
Yeah.
the tour ends September 9th. Oh, Steve Williams and Tracy Smothers against Mitsuharu Misawa, Kenta Kobashi.
So did
But
he
that was
go as Terry Gordy's replacement?
I never thought of it. He might have. What? I don't know. I assumed that he was booked before that, like he was going on the tour. But yeah, because let me see here. He teams with Doc pretty well just about every night, most nights. Oh God, he has a singles match with Kawada. I did that air? Please tell me that airs.
I I don't know. You're our Japanese historian.
Okay, it is a TV taping. I will I will report back if Kawada and Tracy Smothers makes air because that sounds like one of those weird little historical curiosities that I so enjoy. They also had tag matches, Doc and Tracy against the Holy Demon Army, against Stan Hansen and Ted DiBiase because I'm pretty sure DiBiase like leaves SummerSlam '93 and goes straight to Japan.
Yep. Yep. Oh yeah, he is in All Japan right now, and he's going to be until his career-ending injury, which is coming up.
Yeah, he and Hansen win the tag titles like on this tour.
Oh yeah, I didn't note it, but that happened this week in wrestling history.
Yeah, sounds right.
By the way, speaking of matches from Japan that you've been recently watching, um, you shared a match with me from Wing around this time. Do you want to tell
Oh,
our wonderful listener what the match you told me about was?
okay. So, okay, which it was. I was watching a Champ Forum, which if you, Champ Forum was a show that aired on, fuck, I don't remember, one of those like satellite channels that they would have like independent stuff.
Hmm.
So I was watching one that aired in August '93. That's like I was watching it because it's Michinoku Pro, but it's like half wing. So it had Oh, okay. I know what match you're talking about now. There were three matches from Wing, and I don't think I even told you about one of them. One of them was Dick Murdoch against Mitsuhiro Matsunaga, which was not much of a match. And then There was, but that match and the following match were both second round matches in the Wing World Heavyweight Championship tournament. The next one was the Masked Superstar versus Goliath El Gigante, which, if you don't know, and I actually did not know this until I looked it up. I knew half of it. I knew the Masked Superstar is Bill Eadie, Demolition Axe. Goliath El Gigante is Kurrgan. So Demolition Axe wrestled Kurrgan in Korakuen Hall.
That just I saw a little bit of it. Somebody when I looked for it, somebody posted a clip of it on Reddit, and it was everything you could ever dream it could be. By the
It
way,
sure was.
DiBiase does not have his career-ending injury until November 15th.
Yeah, it's they start the tag league and he does like a show or two and then he's like, I'm hurt, I gotta go.
Yeah,
And
his
that was
third
it.
tournament match. Actually, this was the third tournament match, the third match that tour. Him and Hansen defeated Abdullah the Butcher and the Giant Kamala, aka Botswana Beast, Kamala 2, Uganda, and that was his last real match until he showed up at the end of a Legends Battle Royal on Raw and bought the victory from IRS.
Yeah. By the way, Tracy's also going back for the tag league. He is going to speaking of Tracy Smothers, he's going to team with Tracy's nephew Richard Slinger.
Nice.
They lose
Interesting.
every match, every tournament.
Well, someone
Oh,
has to
that's
be
right.
that person or that team. All right. So back to the show. Um, the last, well, ever since Chris Candido debuted, he's been introduced as the WWA World Heavyweight Champion, and especially the last few months, he's been really threatening to bring in the promoter of the WWA, Dennis Coralluzzo from New Jersey. Now, I'd like to imagine anybody listening to this knows who Dennis Coralluzzo is, but Dennis Coralluzzo is in fact a promoter who promoted wrestling shows in New Jersey. He famously had a feud with Paul E. When Paul E was running ECW. And Coralluzzo was there the night of the NWA title double cross, and he's the guy that Paul E got to cut a promo on the ECW TV show about Shane Douglas throwing down the belt before making him look like a fucking idiot. So, with that said, there's obviously a reason why I'm building this up. We finally heard Chris Candido has lived up to his threat. We finally heard from the promoter of the WWA, Mr. Dennis Coralluzzo. Let's go to Coddle and Dutch. We're going to pitch to that.
Fans, the mysterious president of the WWA, Dennis Coralluzzo, finally has got a face. This tape was sent to us from New Jersey, and folks, we're airing it just as we got it, just as it was when we received it. Watch it right here.
Ladies and gentlemen, the president of the World Wrestling Alliance, Mr. Dennis Coralluzzo.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm totally ashamed of the way Smoky Mountain Wrestling is treating our great suicide blonde champion, Chris Candido. I'm reporting to you here from our spacious executive office suites in the WWA Towers. You know, we are the premier wrestling organization in the world, not only in the United States, but in the world. So I would like to say, in the time Chris Candido has been in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, he has been called a crybaby. Smoky Mountain also refuses to recognize his prestigious diamond-studded, gold-plated championship belt. Besides this, they have tried to make him drink from a baby bottle and also wear a diaper. But now, believe this, the worst thing imaginable, SMW is forcing him to get into a country whipping match with Tim Horner. I would expect this from you inbred, backwards, jerk-water, dirty, barefooted, moonshining hillbillies. It is a very barbaric and uncivilized act to put a man in this position. You should be like us in New Jersey. We settle our problems in a businesslike and civilized manner. As always, the winner argument is the winner, and the loser ends up next to Jimmy Hoffa in the Meadowlands. Tim Horner, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, take notice. I'm going to be forced to take some type of action if you do not stop harassing the great Chris Candido. All right, edit this damn thing and send it off. And you tell Guido if that little doesn't stop bothering Chris Candido, he's going to wind up in a pair of cement overshoes. Capiche?
Capiche, Goomba. We'll start this evening for good.
Ah.
The
So
fuck was that?
I'm not gonna say that that was a good promo, but until it got to the end, I wasn't even gonna say it was a bad promo. But by the end, when he becomes a mafia boss, that's when it became okay. This is too fucking over the top. When he starts talking about, you know, threatening to bury Horner next to Jimmy Hoffa in the Meadowlands and getting cement shoes. It's like that was too fucking much. Like it would have been better if I don't want to say played it straight, but straight-ish. Like, you know, Vince McMahon before he amped up the heel turn in 98. So it's like, okay, this guy's an asshole, but he's a representative of the company, so it's like he's an asshole, but he's got, you know, something there where it's like, okay, he's got the credibility of running this wrestling company. Like this was played for laughs and it wasn't funny.
Jimmy
Or
Hoffa.
those,
Everybody knows Jimmy Hoffa is wrestling as the Dark Patriot in ECW. We've established that.
yes, we have. And then the end of the video, the end of the promo that obviously you can't see because you're not watching it, he begins picking his nose. Because why not?
Yeah, sure.
I don't even
So
know.
goofy.
Oh, like honestly, like I get why they'd want to play this, but at the end of the day, they should have just not played it at all. Like that 2 minutes could have been used to introduce some wrestlers, um, or you know, better yet, not have these things so tightly edited. Like when we played that Kevin Sullivan promo, I forgot to mention that basically they got the 3 count, and as soon as they stood up, suddenly we're through the magic of television, we're whisked away to Kevin Sullivan cutting an interview with the Bruise Brothers at the announce position. It's like because it was that it was that, you know, uh, back on time here, and like this is kind of driving me crazy because it's like in a lot of ways, and hey, you know, you want to piss off Corny here? I'll tell you one way. This was Vince Russo's TNA with longer matches, and that's what it's been now for a few weeks, where it's like these shows are so overbooked that we need to cut out shit to squeeze it into 50 minutes in this case. And yeah, you could have easily cut this out. And I get you really couldn't because Candido's going to talk about it in the next segment, but I don't know. There was something you could have fucking done to tighten this up a bit.
All right, when you get to This Week in Wrestling, are you going to talk about the NWA convention?
Yeah, that's actually
Okay.
I think the only goddamn thing. Oh, it's almost the only thing I have to talk about this week.
That's something to talk about. Like, we do. What is this? A crossover episode? We
There
had a
you
lot
go.
to talk about. We had a lot to talk about on This Week in on the Oh My Godcast, but it's like it's partly that, and maybe this is the week that Eddie Gilbert quits ECW.
Possibly. So up next was uh, to show you how tightly things were edited. Tim Horner is in the ring with somebody. That's what I wrote. And um, we neither Horner nor his opponent got an introduction. Now, of course, we know who Tim
No,
Horner is, and if you know, like, if you've been watching this for a while, you could have figured out who the opponent was. But I decided to wait to see if they ever mentioned it. And eventually, Chris Candido, who joins commentary, tells us that it's Mike Sampson. He says it once and nobody else ever mentioned it again, that the opponent was Mike Sampson.
Yeah, and I don't know. I didn't even really. Well, I noticed that they didn't introduce Mike Sampson. I was like, oh, it's Mike Sampson because I've seen him on here a million times. Now they did. It's actually kind of worse than you said. There were no entrances. They cut to the ring where they're standing in the ring. They introduce Tim Horner, and then they do a jump cut to where the bell is already ringing and they're wrestling. Which, as you know, when they do this shit just to cut out the opening bell, it drives my stopwatch nerd ass crazy.
Yeah, because I was actually going to ask you, how long did this fucking match go? Because, I mean,
About 4.5 minutes.
that is too fucking long. And it's like, I'm sorry, I know I was just complaining that there wasn't enough wrestling or whatever, or the wrestling was, but like, this is one of those cases where it's like, okay, this did not need to be 4.5 fucking minutes. You know?
You're right. You're right, but like, this wasn't bad.
No,
I
no,
don't
it
know.
wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. It just, it just went too long. Like, and I get the point was, well, we needed Candido on commentary to basically cut a 5-minute promo on Horner, but it could have been accomplished in 3.
It's possible that it's just because I've been watching ECW from the same period, but like by the standards I'm used to, this match wasn't bad. This was better than most of that.
I'm not like, and again, like this was not a bad match. It was perfectly fine, match, but it's like it didn't need to be this long. Like Horner did a fucking Vader bomb in this match. Like
Horner did a fucking a Tajiri-esque handspring elbow.
See, I was comparing it to China, and you compared it to Tajiri.
It wasn't as good as Tajiri's. It was about China quality.
Yeah, he did the back handspring elbow that they taught the Divas to do in the early 2000s, because China did it, and then somebody else did it. I don't remember who it was. It may have been Kelly Kelly. Now that I think about it, I think it was Kelly Kelly. Like they run across the ring, back handspring elbow, with the back flip too. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you watch Royal Rumble 2001, it's the move China did to Ivory when she quote unquote hurt her neck again.
Yeah.
Even though they showed it in slow motion, she didn't come anywhere near to something that would hurt her neck, but whatever. Anyway, Horner wins with the natural bridge, and then we get the highlight of the match because Candido tries to attack Horner with the strap, but Horner gets it and chases Candido out of the ringside area. That was fantastic.
It was.
Like it sounds like it doesn't sound like much, but it was fucking amazing.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Overall, like, I don't know. I'm gonna call this segment a success overall.
Like I said, I think it was too long, but it was definitely a success. And speaking of things that were long and successful, we have what's essentially an 8-minute edition of Down and Dirty with Dutch, but it starts with essentially a 5.5-minute Jim Cornette promo. Now they do say you're going to hear Dutch say we're going to hear from Jim Cornette and Terry Funk. There was a miscommunication. There's no Terry Funk on this show.
I was very upset about it.
I am so sorry. I'll try to make it up to you here. But for now, let's go to Down and Dirty with Dutch, and he's going to pitch it to Jim Cornette, and then we'll be back after the Cornette part.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Down and Dirty with Dutch. I'm Attila the Hun, and you're not. Before I talk to my special guest, Bullet Bob Armstrong, I want you to hear some special comments from Jim Cornette and Terry Funk. Watch this.
Tom, have you got Mom on the phone yet?
Well, I'm trying, Jim. They keep putting me on hold. Yeah, this is long distance.
What, is she still at the diamond mine in South Africa?
Yeah, she is, Jim. Yeah, they're trying to get through to her. Yes, it's long distance. I keep trying to tell you.
Let me do it. Hey, look here. I'm trying to get a hold of my mother. Well, who's running things down there? Well, who's the head, you bangy? Look, I want her on the phone in 20 minutes. If she don't call me back, then heads are going to roll down there. Do you understand what I'm saying? Don't mess around with me. Digging at holes in the ground. See what this sounds like. Idiot.
Here's your number.
They can call me back. She's out in the field.
Jim.
What, Jimbo?
Jim.
Can I have this one? I like it.
Yes, Jimmy, you can have that one.
Thanks.
It'll make you happy. You know, I think you can see that I'm feeling... Now, Jimmy, play later. Play later now. Just sit down. I think you can see that I'm feeling a little bit better this week than the last time you saw me. The only thing I've done in the interim period of time is go to SummerSlam. I drug myself up because I'm such a man. I drug myself up out of this deathbed, and I went to SummerSlam, and I watched the Heavenly Bodies get ripped off at the hands of the Steiner brothers. But the thing is already in the works to bring the Steiner brothers back here to Smoky Mountain Wrestling to defend those belts. We went to their backyard, Detroit, Michigan, their hometown, with one of those WWF referees and a hometown crowd, and they had all the advantages going their way. But things are going to be a little bit different next time. But as you can see, I'm thinking about September the 12th and September the 17th right here in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. I've already got my Smoky Mountain Wrestling commissioner's cap on, Bob Armstrong. I'm getting just in the mood to be the commissioner. You know, he was the most well-dressed businessman in history with that clip-on tie, that redneck shirt, and this hat. Well, I assure you, when I wear the commissioner's hat, some heads that are underneath it are going to be rolling, and they ain't going to be mine. Now, you see, Bob Armstrong, you say that you're supposedly the shining knight around here, and you're supposedly Mr. Fair Play and Mr. Honesty and Mr. Integrity, Armstrong family tradition, pay what you owe and pay it on time. Well, I seem to recall a year and a half ago when Smoky Mountain Wrestling got started, there was one hold that you banned, one hold that you said was so devastating, was so crippling, that it could never be used in a professional wrestling ring legally, and that was the pile driver. And you crusaded, and you campaigned, and you fined people like Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, and you did everything you could do to stop the use of the pile driver. So what happens when you get in the ring with Jim Cornette in an anything goes match? Not one but two pile drivers. Well, that's okay, so now we see that you don't practice what you preach. But I'll tell you something about me, Bob Armstrong, and the Heavenly Bodies. We practice what we preach. And we preach death, destruction, and dishonor to the Armstrong family. And that's what's going to happen in these two big matches coming up. If you ever want to be employed again, Bob Armstrong, if you ever want to earn a living for your family again, then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to face my challenge. September the 17th in Freedom Hall in Johnson City, you're going to be taking on my secret weapon. Now, if you beat my secret weapon, then I'll have to leave Smoky Mountain Wrestling for good, and of course the Heavenly Bodies would go with me because we're a match set. But if my secret weapon beats you, Bob Armstrong, then you're gone. You're out of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. You can't wrestle. You can't be the commissioner. You can't do nothing. Who is my secret weapon? Like we've said before, they've been bandying names around. Is it a World Wrestling Federation superstar? Or maybe some wild man that's so crazy like Abdullah the Butcher that he's not even allowed to wrestle for any kind of wrestling organization? Huh? You won't know until September the 17th in Johnson City. But the one thing that you do know is you might not make it that far. Because on September the 12th in Knoxville at that Civic Coliseum, you got to take on Terry Funk, the Wild Man, the Mad Texan from Amarillo, the guy that's a former NWA World Champion, the guy that's crippled people across the country, across the world, an international superstar, and also the most psychotic, deranged individual that I know of in professional wrestling. And you talk about pile drivers, Bob Armstrong. Just think back to a big WCW event just about 3.5 years ago when Terry Funk took Nature Boy Ric Flair and picked him upside down and pile-drived him on a table at ringside and put Flair out of action for 4 months. So now you see that you're not the only guy that can use a pile driver. Terry Funk can use the pile driver too, Bob Armstrong. And if he beats you in September the 12th in Knoxville, Tennessee, then I'm going to be the commissioner of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. So you see, after these two matches are over with, one of us is going to be here running the show, and the other one has got to go, Bullet Bob.
Can I just say that I'm really pissed off that when we talked about Fire on the Mountain, I forgot about that pile driver story. And
Yeah, I
I'm
didn't
gonna
know.
blame yeah, I'm gonna blame what's his name, the guy who did the commentary that night for not bringing it up because that would have been a perfect reminder of it too. Because like that was the story, the entire Paul Orndorff run, and was the storyline reason he got kicked out of the company was he kept giving people pile drivers. Bullet Bob banned the pile driver, and it was a regular thing. And now Bullet Bob, when he had his chance, what does he do? He does a fucking pile driver.
Yeah, it's why was he not disqualified? Here's the thing. Here's the
Well, it wasn't
thing.
it wasn't anything goes match, so.
Oh, well, okay, that's valid. I was just thinking, had it not been like you could absolutely have had Bob like pile drive him, get disqualified, then pile drive him again and do the exact same thing. Because the whether or not like winning or losing had nothing to do with any of it. It was that he would send him to the hospital.
Yes. So the fans in Knoxville would not have gotten their money back.
Yeah.
Um, it it would have been a very Andy Kaufman thing to do too. You know.
That is exactly what they did. I forgot about that. Oh, well,
Yeah.
Bill Watts would have loved it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think Watts probably still would have loved it if he saw it in '93.
By
Um,
the way,
I like
eh,
I liked it.
we're
They did. So go ahead.
we're talking about how great Cornette was. The bodies, especially Jimmy, fucking fantastic in this.
Yes, Jimmy Del Rey finding the stuffy or finding the toy. Like, can I have this? And Corner's like, yeah,
Yes.
yes, Jimmy, you can have the. I think next week is even better. Spoiler alert.
Oh, can't wait.
Yeah, there's like a three-part thing of Cornette in his bedroom at home. Now, the one thing I
Excellent.
also liked, they brought up because the last time we saw Jim Cornette at Smoky Mountain Wrestling, he was in a bed, unable to leave his house, and then in between that episode and this episode, he's at fucking SummerSlam, taking bumps for Lex Luger in the corner of the Heavenly Bodies and all that shit.
He went
So
on fucking Regis and Kathy Lee with the neck brace on.
yes, he did, and that was fucking tremendous. And he
Yeah.
said ahead of time, it's like, hey, I'll do this, but just so you know, I'm wearing a neck brace because of this, that, and the other thing. And shows you how desperate WWE was at the time. They're like, "Oh yeah, sure, we'll let you sell an angle from Smoky Mountain on our nationally televised TV show."
Okay, so I had gotten just because like there was like a lot of New Japan going on, and also I had real life going on. I got behind in my 1993, and I'm playing catch up. So I just like in the past couple of days watched like the first two Raws that Cornette was on, and it's like I it's just bizarre hearing Vince McMahon put over like Smoky Mountain Wrestling in the Smoky Mountain area, and obviously like immediately the average promo quality on that show goes up, and it and what really makes it is Bobby Heenan putting Cornette over as like the greatest manager, and of course Cornette says, "Well, I'm only the greatest because you don't manage anymore." And it's really great stuff. And then like I had never seen the contract signing with Luger and Yokozuna when they introduced Cornette as Yokozuna's new Japanese spokesman, and he's uh yeah, let me look through the contract. And he looks at it, and he goes, isn't it? And he tells Fuji, yeah, it's in there. And then they do they sign the contract, and then that's when Cornette reveals that he had slipped a clause into the contract that would be Luger's only title shot. It was just I don't know. I just wanted to bring it up because I was just watching it today. It was great shit.
I forget when it was. Maybe it was at SummerSlam, but Vince talks about Mr. Armstrong, talking about Bullet Bob. Like that's not something I'd expect to hear on a WWF show at the time. Like it is as weird as nowadays when Michael Cole randomly references like random non-WWE shit. Like when he paid tribute on air to both Don West and Jay Briscoe, like, yeah, it was the right thing to do. But again, it's Michael Cole paying tribute to Don West and Jay Briscoe on WWE television.
Now I'm just thinking
That was
about what a team Michael Cole and Don West would have been.
It either would have been the greatest team of all time or the worst team of all time.
It would have been both at the same time.
It's like people forget, like Don West, especially like before he turned heel, like he was really running the course. Like, it really was time to make a change in the broadcast booth. But because when Taz came in, I don't remember exactly how quickly Taz gave up, but you watch those TNA shows from 2011, 2012, Taz has given up. Like, and so it's like Taz, I don't want to say Taz wasn't the answer, but in 2011, it was time to ditch Taz. Because that was when they also tried to bring in Todd Keneally and Borash as announcing, but that didn't work out either.
So over on the Oh My God cast, we have these early shows before Joey Styles becomes the voice of ECW. The play-by-play man is a man named Mr. J. Sulli, and Mr. J. Sulli is not a good play-by-play man, but he's like, I've grown so fond of him, and I'm sad because I know he's only got about 3 shows left. But we were talking about like he's not a good play-by-play man, but he could have been like, he just has this enthusiasm, and I brought up like Don West, Mike Hogwood, like that kind of just infectious dork enthusiasm, and I just had thought like because I think he disappears and is never seen in wrestling again. If he had just stayed had been the host of the show, the host of the TV show, like he would have been fantastic. And then I just thought, this probably was not at all like what the vision of ECW was, but just for my entertainment, Joey Styles on play-by-play with Mr. J. Sulli on color, I think would have been fantastic television.
Well, what about Jay Sulli in the role of Boyd Pierce?
Oh yeah, exactly. Yes, that's perfect.
Here's the president of ECW, Joey Styles.
Expert analyst Joey Styles. That would have been perfect.
I have to ask you, and I'm going to keep asking you this until he finally gets on the TV. Has Matty in the House shown up on ECW yet?
No, I think that's in a few weeks. It's coming soon. I think that's after I think that's like the Bloodfest tapings.
I am really interested in knowing your thoughts on this man, because I remember asking you, and I don't think you said you ever saw him before.
I still don't know who it is. The only reason I know that somebody named Matty in the House is coming is because the other day I watched the kayfabe commentaries, the timeline ECW 1992-93 with Todd Gordon, and they brought it up there. So I'm going in completely blind. I don't know who this is, so I'm gonna find out.
Ah! Ah! Ah!
Is that a hint of my future?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
terrific.
It is.
Did we just do all of that in the middle of this Down and Dirty segment? We haven't even gotten to the Bullet Bob segment yet.
We did. We have not gotten to Bullet Bob yet. Here, 73 minutes into the show. Let's go. By the way, this is 26 minutes into Smoky Mountain. So we're halfway through the show, and we still have a lot to go here. Let's go to Bullet Bob right now.
As I promised my special guest, Bullet Bob Armstrong. Now, you heard what they said. Now, I'm going to ask you something with some journalistic quality to it. You're going to enter into the most dangerous 5-day period of your life, and not only your life, but your wrestling career. Your comments for all the fans in Smoky Mountain.
Well, I'll say this. Jimmy Cornette is trying to take away my right to make a living. And when somebody messes with my rights, I'm going to fight long and hard. I'll fight for anybody's rights long and hard. In fact, when I was a Marine, I fought for all Americans' right to choose their way of doing things. What do you think would happen if Jim Cornette was a commissioner of Smoky Mountain Wrestling? Can you even imagine him being commissioner of Smoky Mountain Wrestling?
Well, me being a journalist, I wouldn't be at liberty to say, but that's your problem, Mr. Armstrong. That's not my problem. Let me tell you one thing. Terry Funk, your first test. Now, it takes a lot of guys 5 days to get out of the bed. But if you are lucky enough to beat Funk, 5 days later, you're going to have to step back in the ring with Cornette's secret weapon. Now, how are you going to handle both tests almost basically at the same time?
Well, you know, you can chase an old dog a long way, but when he gets to his home, he's going to turn and fight you. Well, Smoky Mountain is my home, just like the insignia on this cap says, Smoky Mountain. I've been here since Smoky Mountain started as its commissioner. I didn't ask to be a wrestler. I didn't want to be a wrestler. Cornette messed me up and hurt me bad, and the only way I could get back at him was to become a wrestler again and hurt him. I've done it, that's over with. But now he's spending all the money he's got, all his mother can muster, to hire secret weapons in Johnson City to bring Terry Funk to Knoxville on September 12th. And if I lose this, I don't have another way to make a living. After these contracts are gone, I don't have a way to make a living. I have no more wrestling contracts. So when your back is against the wall, what are you going to do, Dutch Mantell? You're going to fight with all you got, and when you're fighting for the right, you're going to fight real hard. So I'll tell you this. I got a right to make a living. I got a right to be at Smoky Mountain, and I'm going to be here a long time. So you tell Terry Funk to bring his bad self on. I know he's been out there in Texas eating all that Texas beef and getting big and bad. Well, the bullet's been up here in the mountains eating cornbread, grits, and greens, and I've stayed lean and mean. So, brother, when my welfare is up for grabs, you better know this. Let me answer your question. I'm going to fight till this old body ain't got no breath left in his body, and it's been a pleasure. Yours, of course.
Trae, how is that time machine you've been working on?
I need to find a physicist. Still working on that, but really, I've got the facade prepared. Now, I wanted to do a TARDIS, but I couldn't find a phone booth, so it's like a big trash dumpster.
If it helps, it wasn't a phone booth; it was a police booth.
Is it not a booth that you'd see? I assumed that meant it was a box you meant to call the police. Was it just like a box that police hung out in?
I assume it's a box called the police, but I mean, it's not necessarily a phone booth per se.
Okay. I've only ever watched like 2 episodes of that show.
It's a fantastic show. You really should.
You know, you would think it would be something I would be into. I would probably enjoy it if I put the time into it. I don't have enough time in my life to love anything else.
Your wife and wrestling. That's a pretty good 2 things to love. So when this promo started, at first I thought it was a pre-tape promo in an empty arena because there's no sound in the background. But then I saw the outlines of people. The crowd, 300-400 people, whatever it was, respectfully silent for, 99% of it. And wanted to hear what Bullet Bob had to say about this match coming up with Terry Funk.
Yeah, as they
and
should.
This was another money promo. I want to see Bullet Bob Armstrong take on Terry Funk, and I want to see Bullet Bob Armstrong take on this mystery opponent the next week for the commissioner job. Or no, I'm sorry, the Terry Funk match is for the commissioner job. The match the next week is a loser leaves town match. Now, I will say this. I know what happens, but before I knew what happened, I had no idea what was going to happen. Because it makes sense that Jim Cornette would lose because he's got the WWF. He just started in the WWF. So, yeah, it makes sense. He's going to lose, and he's going to now leave town. And it doesn't make sense that Bullet Bob Armstrong would leave town. At the same time, Bullet Bob was the commissioner. He's come in. He's done his thing. He's had his storyline. What's next for him? Maybe it's time for him to go. So going into it, I had zero idea what was going to happen.
I didn't know what was going to happen, and you just ruined it for me
How did I just ruin it for you?
because I didn't know.
You're right, you don't know.
You
I
just
didn't tell
told
you what
me.
happens. What happens?
Cornette leaves town. You just said it.
I said that could happen. I said it could also happen that Bullet Bob leaves town because he's done his storyline.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I said, did you not hear the whole damn thing?
I guess not. I'm sorry. I
No worries.
sometimes I have the ADHD, and sometimes I space out when people are talking.
No worries. But again, and I said this last week, and I want you to promise me again. Promise me that you will not look up the results of either match or who the mystery opponent is until we reach that point in the timeline.
Okay, I still have not.
Good. Yeah, and I know you're tempted to because I know you like to, you're a very thorough note taker and historian, and you like to, have shit. And so I just wanted to make sure that, this is an interesting next couple of weeks, we'll just say.
Indeed.
All right. So Smoky Mountain champion Primetime Brian Lee with Tammy, Fytch versus Bobby Blaze. Bobby Blaze, the number one contender somehow to the Smoky Mountain title, didn't even get an intro. And in case you forget, Tammy Fytch is the young lady who filed a sexual discrimination lawsuit against Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And, the courts are slow as fuck. And there's been no update to that lawsuit in quite a while here.
I
But
I was just appalled at the matchmaking here. What the fuck is not Bobby Blaze. Bobby Duncan would be better, senior or junior. Why the fuck is Bobby Blaze getting a title shot? Other than like the fluke against the Dirty White Boy, and then the one time that he defended the TV title against another one of the job guys. Like, he has lost every fucking match on TV. Why is he getting a title shot?
because he went to a 10-minute time limit draw with a white boy that, by the way, never got mentioned on TV. So if it wasn't for the fact that you now see Bobby Blaze with hair, you'd have no idea if he won or lost. And even then, you have no idea if he won or not, or if he just went to the time limit.
I'm taking your word for it.
Yeah. All right. The only thing I wrote down about this match, Blaze came off the top rope with a crossbody, and Primetime Brian Lee caught him with a power slam for the win.
Okay.
Is there anything else you need to know?
They did a jump cut for the second time in the episode, which appalled me. Like, again, this is where I can tell they tape too much stuff again, which is funny because they are the opposite of ECW during this period, where they have to fill time. So they have Eddie Gilbert and Jay Sulli doing like 10-minute comedy segments in the studio. With this, and Bobby Blaze did his best, and the crowd was there with him, so good for him, I guess. I will say the finish was just a little bit cooler than you let on. It was not a crossbody. He did a cannonball, and Brian Lee caught him in midair and power slammed him. So that was a little bit cooler than you gave it credit for. But overall, this was like 3.5 minutes of why the fuck is Bobby Blaze getting a title shot.
Well, Primetime Brian Lee, you remember earlier in the show about 3 hours ago when we started doing the show, we talked about Mr. Ron Wright and Dirty White Boy freaking out. Well, Primetime Brian Lee and Tammy Fytch have a response to that. Let's go to Bob Caudle.
Primetime Brian Lee, Tammy Fytch right here, fans. And, of course, she's got that heavyweight champion belt. You just saw another defense of that. Tracy Smothers. Tracy says he's going to be back in 3 weeks now. What about that?
We crippled Tracy Smothers. We crippled him. I can't believe he's coming back. The reason he's coming back is because he just can't stay away from me.
Exactly right.
He loves me so much, he can't stay away from me. That's the only reason he's coming back. He won't be able to walk when he comes back, but he can't resist me. He's going to come back and try to molest me again.
Tracy Smothers, it's like I said before. You make an excuse, you say you want the belt, You say you want Primetime Brian Lee. You're nothing but a pervert. Even with your legs broken, boy, you're going to crawl back like all these slimy rednecks would do just to get their hands and just get a glimpse of this beautiful thing here. She's Primetime Brian Lee's, and I put you out for $25,000. It's my money, and you're not getting a dime back, dirty white boy, so don't think you are. Tracy Smothers, you're through, and you're not coming back, and I think it's all a puppet.
No.
I think it's all a puppet.
3 weeks from the time of the injury, not even 6. What about it? He's going to do it.
He's not coming back in 3 weeks. I'm telling you, I broke his leg. I broke Tracy Smothers' leg. She was an eyewitness. She was there. Everybody's
Wait a minute. Here comes the dirty white boy. What about the white boy in a cage? The white boy's going to be in a cage.
I want Ron's money. I mean, that's the money. Ron wants his money back right now.
It's like I just said, the money's spent. The money's already spent.
You spent the money.
No, wait a minute, guys. Guys, wait a minute. Hold on. Give me the microphone. Wait a minute. The money isn't spent. What Brian means is that it's as good as money in the bank. You don't have to worry about it. Because Tracy won't be coming back. Listen, calm down. If Tracy comes back...
The money in my pocket.
Listen, if Tracy comes back, we'll just take care of him again like we did the first time. Don't worry about it. It's not spent. Brian just, he misworded that. He's coming back. We have a match with him, and we'll take care of him again. Listen, we need to go talk somewhere. Let's go talk.
All right, she going to take Ron. They're going to go off. They're going to talk. They're going to discuss this situation. And there they go. Dirty white boy and Primetime Brian Lee. Hey, we'll be right back.
All right. Can I just say Tammy popped me when she says at the beginning that the only reason Tracy's coming back is because he's obsessed with her and in love with her, and now he's probably going to come back to whatchamacallit, what did she say? Not assault her, but whatever he's going to do.
Molest her.
Molest her. I fucking popped. That was tremendous. And like I said, this is my favorite storyline in Smoky Mountain. This entire 4-year run that we're going to do, this is my favorite, and I think it's off to a tremendous start.
Yeah.
You know, this scumbag alliance, and that it is falling apart like any good scumbag alliance will do.
No honor among thieves. No honor among scumbags, as it were.
Nope. Poor Mr. Ron Wright, who he's so angry, but at least he has this pretty girl who's talking all sweet to him and being all nice to him, and we'll see how this goes. But I love that Primetime Brian Lee and Tammy are cutting their promo, and as I wrote, in screamed dirty white boy.
Yeah, accurate.
Anything else you want to say about this one?
I don't think so. That's I don't know. I did have the thought that when Tammy took Mr. Ron Wright back to presumably give him another piece. So I think she's the one that can't get enough of someone.
She's got was Anna Nicole Smith before or after this? I mean, obviously she was alive at this point, but you know what I mean.
When she married the old guy, yeah, I don't know.
Specifically when he died, I don't think anybody cared when they got married. So this is definitely giving off those kind of vibes, and this was before Anna Nicole Smith. Props to Corny, and if it was after Anna Nicole Smith, props to Corny for being able to use that in a believable way on his wrestling show here. So
yeah,
on the version that I saw, and keep in mind, I don't know if you're watching the same version I am. They aired 2 commercials for a house show in Phelps, Kentucky.
Yes,
and
September 18th, Phelps, Kentucky.
Yes, the video of this, like they're just showing highlights of different Smoky Mountain. It's basically the same thing they show when they do the you can speak to your civic group and bring Smoky Mountain to your hometown. But the funny thing is here is like they're airing video clips of Paul Orndorff, Buddy Landell, the Batten twins, and Nitro Danny Davis, none of whom have been here in almost a year.
Well, maybe they have a time machine too.
Well, these are specifically that not the first or second DVD tapings. This was an early TV taping because it was the fun thing was like I remember like the entranceway was to the left, but for some reason they had to walk all the way around behind the crowd and through another aisle. So they're starting from the left, walking across the camera and coming down from the right. That,
Yeah.
that just seemed wacky and weird. Anyway, Ricky Morton versus Jimmy Del Rey in our Beat the Champ TV title match. So Dr. Tom came out to the ring for immoral support. And I hope you're sitting down for this because I'm sure this will shock anybody listening to this. Out came Robert Gibson to even the odds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can't imagine such a thing.
So this obviously was not as good, but I noted that on World Class we had a tremendous fight, at least that I loved, between Terry Gordy and Kevin Von Erich. And then we got this, and while it wasn't a fight by any means, it was an old school Southern wrestling match. And it really came out big here on this show because, on a show where we've seen not that many good matches, these two having a really spectacular little match here really stood out. Del Rey, and I thought Morton was going to win here because, they did the spot where Del Rey hits a big move, and instead of going for the cover, he showboats and goes for it again. So Morton has to reverse it. As when Del Rey goes for a sit-out power bomb, and he does it the first time. The second time, Morton turns it into a hurricanrana, and and then the finish. Dr. Tom jumps on the apron. You don't really see it that well, but he throws a chain to Ricky Morton, or not to Ricky Morton, but he throws it to Jimmy Del Rey. And with everyone in the world distracted, Del Rey knocks him the fuck out for the win. So Jimmy Del Rey is your new Beat the Champ TV champion. Think about what he can do with $1,000.
Yeah, when you take some guys who can work and just give them a little time, good things tend to happen. In fact, my only complaint about this is that I would have liked more of it. I was really excited when the match started and there was like 13 minutes of TV time left, but they only got 7.5. But yeah. So there is a certain
I thought that
art.
we get a little bit more, but that was about what I was expecting.
Yeah. There is a certain art to being a midget asshole heel. Like Tully Blanchard is like the sterling example of just like you're smaller, but just the way you work, you're just fucking heat magnet. And Jimmy Del Rey's got that too. He's a great little scumbag.
He was the absolute perfect person to replace Stan Lane as a heavenly body.
Yes.
And we've obviously talked about this, was like Jimmy Del Rey he does not have a heavenly body. To be fair, neither is Dr. Tom. But Stan Lane was, I'd say, in a much better shape than either of them. But it's like this took the team, Jimmy Del Rey took the team from being, I don't want to say a serious tag team because they obviously had, a bit of comedy in there, but they were a lot more serious than they are now. Like now it's like this is a borderline comedy tag team who can go. And Del Rey with the gap tooth and just like is so just naturally skeezy. And I guess I think he passed away a few years ago. I would have loved to be able to talk to him. Like, who knows? Maybe he really was this much of a scumbag in real life. But if he was, kudos to him for being able to bring that onto the television.
I would like to believe that he was just living the gimmick.
Ladies, the line is to the right.
Indeed.
He was not Stan Lane. He would not have needed this $1,000 to fly in his girls from Florida. He's not Chris
No.
Jericho. He was happy with the selection in the Smoky Mountains.
Yeah. He I'm sure he did his part as well. Him and Ricky and Robert.
Yes, they helped. They heard that the home for unwed teenage moms was going out of business, so they decided to lend a hand and help out.
Good guys, top guys.
Yes. So speaking of them, and because we haven't heard enough audio on this show today, let's go to a show closing promo here with the Heavenly Bodies.
All right, fans, we'll be right now here at ringside. Of course, the Heavenly Bodies, Tom Pritchard, Jimmy Del Rey.
That's right.
Tom, you guys, I tell you, it looks like it doesn't matter what the organization is or where it is. You're after championships, you're after belts, you're after everything.
That's right. We proved to the entire wrestling world that we don't care if it's WCW or the World Wrestling Federation. We will go anywhere. We're going to get all the titles, all the money. We're going to get all the women. And you can see we just got another $1,000. And my cousin is still the TV Beat the champion. Jim Cornette is coming along very nicely. He's going to be okay. But we want to tell you something else. We went to the Steiners' hometown. We went to your place, Steiners, Detroit, Michigan. We took the challenge, but now we're issuing a challenge of our own. If you've got the guts, come down here to Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and we'll show you. You can walk in the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions, but I guarantee you, you won't walk out the champions. And as for the Rock and Roll Express, we just showed you one more time what they're about. We just showed you that they are washed up. They're nothing. My cousin and myself can beat the Rock and Roll Express any day of the week. And in fact, if they were here right now, we'd show them exactly what we were made of.
You're stinking right, rock and roll.
And here they are, fans, the Rock and Roll Express. And there go the Heavenly Bodies.
Oh, we're here, Bob Cottle. I guess one thing you found out, Jimmy Ray, that I'm like a Tom X. I take a licking and I'll keep on a ticking. Because I'm known to get my behind kicked. But you see, a hot cup of soup and a good night's sleep, and you gotta do it again. But the only thing about it is Bruce Brothers, you can come out here and talk to the whole world about how big and bad you are. But you got us back against the wall right now. Our hair's at stake, but what's on our mind is those Smoky Mountain Tag Team belts. And as for you, Jimmy Cornette, with their Heavenly Bodies, you come out here and talk all this garbage about WWL. Oh yeah, you went up there, but you know the funny thing about it is, Robert, they arrived up there to have a big long limousine. But you know, Jimmy Real Day and Tom, they got in a fight who's gonna ride in the front seat. But you know better than that, Jimmy Cornette picked them both, they let him drive. But that don't mean nothing to us, Cornette, because if you do win the World Wrestling Federation titles, only thing you're gonna do is lose them to the Rock and Roll Express. Like I told you many times before, way on back in the year, we already ran one of the Heavenly Bodies out of here, Stan Lane. And it will be nothing else to run Jimmy Dale or Tom Pritchard in the one, because we don't care. Rock and Roll's here to stay. We're not here to play.
All right, fans, rock and
All right. There was a lot to like about this promo, I thought.
Yeah.
I like, both parts of it. I like the Heavenly Bodies part of it. They brought up losing to the Steiners at SummerSlam and brought up again challenging them to come down to Smoky Mountain because I don't think it actually happened, but there was a plan for them to come down and lose to the Heavenly Bodies because they're spoiler alert, they're about to lose the tag team titles in the WWF to the Quebecers. So they were going to come down and basically return the favor to the Heavenly Bodies. But I don't think that match happens. I'd have to double check.
I thought they came to Smoky Mountain at some point. Now that doesn't mean that they lost to the Bodies. But I thought, let me see here.
I know in like 94, 95 that because Corny brings it up that he tried to bring in the Steiners at one point after they were out of WWF and before they went back to WCW, and they wanted too much money to come in. And
Steiners are going to be in for 4 days in October.
Okay, so I was lying. Um, the Steiners do come in, you know.
They will not be
I
the
apologize.
WWF Tag Team Champions.
That part I was being honest about, because if
Yeah.
there's one thing I know, it's my WWF history, especially around this time.
Is they this
Which
is
is
the fourth. They lose the titles on the 13th.
yep, they have that wacky match with the Quebecers that they insert like a whole bunch of random rules, and one of them is that you can lose the titles on disqualification. And I think Scott is caught beating the shit out of one of the Quebecers with the hockey stick.
I think it's
By
where
the way,
Jock had the idea to do the same thing at New Blood Rising.
since this match was taped before SummerSlam, even though it aired after, does this make Rick the linear Beat the Champ TV champion?
Well, no, because it's only singles matches.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Well, before we were talking on Facebook, and you said that Sting might be the linear number one contenders to the tag team titles or the linear tag team champions or whatever, because he beat Robbie Eagle. So I wasn't sure if it worked in the opposite way as well.
It works to whatever rules that I make up as I go along as to what best amuses me.
Sounds
So
good.
I
So,
I as we will remember the TV championship for it was the Horner's fax machine, and then it was Mr. Ron Wright's heart pill bottle. Now the TV title should be the little stuffed animal that Cornette gave Jimmy.
definitely, definitely. Um, by the way, I forgot to mention this. I also liked how the Rock and Roll Express brought up, or Ricky Morton brought up, that hey, if you go ahead and win the WWF Tag Team titles, that's fine, because we'll just beat you for them too. And
Yeah.
I, I just like this promo on so many levels here. And so that was the end of the show. If you can't, if you're we were grading this show, if you can't give this show an A plus, literally no show ever is an A plus if this one isn't.
Yeah, on the scale of like a 1 hour territory TV show, yeah.
Yeah. So a huge congratulations to me for convincing Trey to do this show. Because I'm sure at some point you may have gone in, years from now when like you wanted something to watch and you're like, hey, I had never watched Smoky Mountain. You may have watched it then. But thanks to me, I convinced you to take part in this program where you'd be watching this now.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
something
we've
to do.
established that I have a really big ego. But
You got a big
that,
ego.
yes, I do. 84 down, 116 to go. We are almost halfway home. And before we finish things up here in our 2 hour retrospective of a 1 hour podcast, we got to tell you what else is happening in the world of wrestling, because like I always say, I can tell you September 4th, 1993, until I'm blue in the face. But this is going to give you some context to tell you what the hell else is happening in the world of wrestling at this point in time. And the big news, and in many cases the only news, is the NWA convention. Now, the NWA convention, at this point especially, it really, really means nothing because the NWA doesn't mean anything. And the big news is that WCW has officially resigned from the NWA. Um, and New Japan has officially resigned from the NWA, basically leaving the NWA as Dennis Coralluzzo, um, Steve Ricard in New Zealand, the O'Days in Australia, and now Paul Ewald, Todd Gordon, and ECW in Philadelphia. That is what the NWA is at this point. New Japan basically gave up on the NWA when WCW put the title on Barry Windham earlier this year because they had no desire to book Barry Windham as the NWA champion. And
Yeah,
then,
which
hmm?
like I don't know. Barry Windham was good. Why would I? I didn't get that. What did fucking Ricky Choshu have against Barry Windham?
This isn't 1987 Barry Windham. This is 1993 Barry Windham, which are two very different Barry Windhams.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and now the other, hey, we're going to make things noteworthy here. Jim Cornette and Smoky Mountain Wrestling had applied to become members of the NWA, but it was shelved because Jim Cornette, as hey, spoiler alert, you may have heard us mention this, is now the manager of the WWF champion. And the NWA wants reassurances that despite that, Cornette will continue to recognize the NWA champion as the one true world champion. Now,
Yeah.
this, as you can imagine, this brings up issues when it comes to the NWA title itself. WCW owns the physical championship belt, the big gold belt, as it's known as, the one that WWE is bastardized nowadays to be the Raw World title. It's that belt. And so WCW owns the physical championship belt. And there's some issues here because Ric Flair's the current champion. Nobody's been able to get dates on him like they're actually supposed to be allowed to as part of the NWA bylaws. They are going to switch the title to Rick Rude at Fall Brawl in a few weeks, and that has already been decided without the approval of the NWA at all. Now, in the past few weeks, WCW has stopped calling it an NWA title match and has actually sent notification to the cable companies to just refer to it as a world heavyweight title match. And so the NWA this week is planning on reaching out to WCW for basically to try to bring an end to everything. That Rick Rude will go ahead and lose the title or win the title from Ric Flair at Fall Brawl, and then he'll lose it on an NWA show to a wrestler of the NWA's choice, which on it on the surface doesn't sound like an awful idea, but spoiler alert, nobody, including Dave Meltzer in 1993, believes that is going to happen.
Yeah, and it doesn't.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. So yeah, we're very quickly ending the NWA era. And even though the NWA is going to have Dan Severn as champion and other shit, this is pretty much the end of the NWA for any national recognition until TNA starts.
Yep.
And
then
and
that may have further reduced the prestige more than all this bullshit did.
True, but it did make it a name again. And without it, we wouldn't have gotten NWA World Champions like Tokyo Monster Kahagas, Colorado Kid Mike Rapata,
Jax Dane.
Oh, I forgot about Jax Dane. Tim Storm, the 60-something-year-old man. I don't think he was 60 at the time, but he was pretty damn old at the time.
Pride of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Tim Storm.
We should get him on this show sometime. Is he? Didn't he? I think he does commentary for the NWA, or at least he used to. Call up Billy Corgan and try to get a guest booked. Trae, I'm
I have
assuming
no
you and Billy
idea.
Corgan are super close friends.
I have no idea what happens on the NWA TV show.
That makes pretty much everybody in the world. Right? They like who'd have thought that Jim Mitchell snorting some cocaine would have such an effect on a promotion?
Yeah.
Why can't they go back onto YouTube? Like that's what's like make me scratch my head the most is like they got the deal with the CW that they fucked up and so they ended up on the app for 6 months or whatever, however long it was. But then with that ended, they're not even back on fucking YouTube. They're hosting their shows on X. Like, they're
Attempts,
not WWE Speed.
unfortunately. Probably be better if it was only 3 minutes.
Anyway, the other big news, by the way, more on the NWA title thing to come, even though Trae basically told you how it ends here. But the other thing of note this week, Sid Vicious walked out of WCW instead of taking a mandatory drug test. He was told that if he does not take this mandatory drug test, he would be fired. Well, two things are true. He never takes a drug test, and he still participates in the two pay-per-view main event matches he's got coming up in the next 8 weeks.
Yeah,
And while yes, he does get fired, but it has nothing to do with refusing to take a drug test.
that was a whole other incident that I'm sure we'll get to in about a month or so.
On or around my what would that have been? My 9th birthday. It was the end of October of '93. Oh my God, that same weekend was Ludwig Borga ending Tatanka's undefeated streak. So I had a hell of a 9th birthday that weekend.
The episode or the one of the episodes of Eastern Championship Wrestling that we review on the podcast that drops next Tuesday was my 6th birthday.
Nice. Happy 6th birthday in retrospect.
Yeah, I was in 1st grade. I still had so much potential back then.
I was in 3rd grade at this point. Hooray for that. All right, so that's gonna do it for this week's show. You plugged the Oh My God cast 104 times. Let's go 105th time. Tell us about the Oh My God cast.
Yeah, ohmygodcast.com. Would love to get another listener. Do you think the listener already listens to the Oh My God cast? That'd be nice.
Oh,
I would.
I'm sure of it. If not, listener, why the hell aren't you listening to that show? If you're listening to this show, why aren't you listening to that show? I mean, if you're saying
It's
because
not
I'm
any.
not on it, I'm sure we can make it happen. But I do enough fucking shows.
It's not any worse than this show.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's quite the plug for it. The Oh My God cast. We're not worse than something else.
That's the tagline. No, it's been fun. I actually took a lot from the show when we relaunched the Oh My God cast. Like I do the audio now, which has just never occurred to me until I started doing these shows and you were doing it, and I'm like, wait, that's brilliant. So you get to hear great Stan Hansen promos and Road Warrior Hawk ramblings and Terry Funk goodness and the occasional Mr. J. Sulli silliness. Uh, we had so a new show dropped last week. We're gonna have another new show. Spoiler alert that we already recorded. That's gonna go up next Tuesday, and then we have plans this weekend to record one more show that'll go up before the end of the year. Where we will cover, so in theory, if all goes well, on December, what day of the week? Like December 30th, maybe, whatever that Tuesday is, we will cover Ultra Clash 93, which is
Nice.
the beginning of the Paul Heyman era, because like the same week. It's funny because the reason that Eastern Championship Wrestling joined the NWA was because the booker, Eddie Gilbert, thought it would be a good idea. Now they're on TV. The name NWA, Eastern Championship Wrestling, would give the show more gravitas. 4 days later, Eddie Gilbert quits as booker, and then they kind of muddle along as part of the NWA for about 9 months until probably after we get through the current situation with WCW, the next news that we talk about regarding the NWA World Championship will happen in ECW in about a year.
Spoiler alert, in case you somehow don't know about that. But yep, so that's gonna do it for this week's show. Hope you all enjoyed it. It was definitely one of our more recent shows we've ever done. I want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you again in 7 days.
Bye.